All right. So to kind of formally get this started, thank you for coming. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Philip Lotspeech. I'm the General Presbyter for the Presbytery, and glad to have you here. It has been a long and interesting 6 months for everybody, especially us folks leading churches and leading worship and doing those kinds of activities, because it has been, based on what I've seen and conversations with pastors, it's been one of the more challenging times we've had to face, just doing the various tasks that we do, because what we do is very relational and it's very community oriented. And a lot of what we do is based on gathering people together and having them in close spaces, which is still not really recommended, especially indoors. And so worship has been probably the biggest challenge we faced. And there's still a lot of pressure around worship, not some to worship, some not to worship. And so I continue to lift you up in prayer for the work you have to do and the challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis. So know that we're continuing to pray for you. This conversation came up. We've been having mostly weekly gatherings of pastors to have conversations. And while we missed Easter, in some ways we missed Easter. We didn't miss Easter, but we were still early on in the pandemic and still trying to figure things out. We got a nice Lent because we were in quarantine. So that was kind of a Lenten experience for a lot of us, just to separate from, kind of isolate and separate. We gave up a lot. We started thinking about Advent and Christmas, and a couple of our pastors had shared what they were going to do and what they were thinking about. And it occurred to me that we have some time to plan, and we would hate to quote unquote miss another opportunity to do something meaningful for people during one of our major festivals. And so we decided to have this conversation. There's no expert here. Well, the closest expert we have is Jenny. Jenny is our point person, who tell me what point is again. I can get about half the acronym.
Presbyterians organized in nurture and teaching.
So Jenny is our point person. And so she is always on the lookout for curriculum, stuff going on with APSE, the Association of Presbyterian Christian Educators. And so she's always available for consultation or a question, communication. And if you're looking for resources, she'd be a good place to connect with and to connect to and ask. But we wanted to at least facilitate a conversation and see what some folks are doing, and see if we can at least begin to shape and form what Advent and Christmas could be. Because I mean, I try to be a very optimistic person, but I'm very realistic about the status of this virus and COVID and where we are. It doesn't look like we're going to make substantial gains in limiting the spread before we hit into this fall season, like in mostly an indoor season for us. And so it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to quote unquote get back to normal anytime soon. So quite frankly, our Advent and Christmas season is going to be different. It's just going to be different. But we don't want it to lack meaning. And we don't want people to feel isolated during this time, because it's a time of preparation, but also a time of celebration. So, I'm gonna open it up. We have a great group here, and I guess my first question is, does anybody have any ideas they're already working on that they would like to share? Some thoughts they would like to share about what they're doing in Advent that might kick off our conversation. Or all of you here looking for something to do. Okay, I'm gonna make Hannah start, because Hannah was one of the ones on our call originally that said, "Here's what we're thinking about and planning." So I'm gonna throw you under the bus, Hannah.
It's okay.
And have you tell us what you've been thinking about in regards to Advent and Christmas Eve.
Nothing much for Advent. I will probably use the Sanctified Art information, and from what I've heard, they have designed their offerings for the time of COVID, because they wrote it during the time of COVID. So I will probably look towards their information for Advent stuff for worship. But what we are going to be doing for Christmas, because we can't have a pageant, we are going to have a drive-through nativity going around. You know, Pisgah has this great loop on our property where in a great huge area that is our grass parking lot. And that grass parking lot will serve as our stage for different stations, kind of like a Stations of the Cross, but it's a Stations of the Nativity. And I have somebody working on that right now. I don't know how many stations we'll have, probably about 7 or 8. That gives families a chance to participate and each person have a role, but it also allows us to space them out. So each station will be a different part of the nativity story. And then we will invite people to come in one way, drive around, have music playing, because we have an AM FM transmitter. Anna and Meg, our organist and choir director, will record some music for us. And we'll have that playing as people go around, and then they'll go out the other way. That's where we are right now. We started talking about Christmas Eve yesterday with a group of us. Probably be just one service instead of the 2 that we typically have, outside with candles, spaced out, and just singing carols and the traditional songs. So that's where Pisgah is right now.
Keeping your fingers crossed that it's not 30 degrees and raining on the outside.
Hey, I've already told them they can't let their pastor decide when it's too cold, because she'll go all winter long outside. So that's if you have the space, that's a great idea. If you have some space where you can set that up in a parking lot or an adjacent lot or something, that could be interesting. The other thing that came up to me when you were talking, this could be a great opportunity to do something with other congregations in your community. And to do kind of a drive, it's almost like the progressive supper idea to some degree. Every church take a piece of the nativity scene and do out front, and people could drive through, and it could be actually a nice little city project, ecumenical project that you might be able to do with other congregations. That could be interesting. And even if you're in like a Lexington or something, which is a little bigger, because I know a lot of our churches, they don't, Pisgah's blessed with a lot of land and a lot of space. But if you're at First Lexington, your parking lot is not really even kind of your parking lot to some degree, and there's no land around you to do that, so it would be a little more difficult to accomplish a whole nativity scene. But if like Maxwell Street and Second and Beaumont and others did it, or a collection of churches in a certain geographic area did it, it could be interesting. That could be fun.
It would do.
I think.
I have a question. I'm curious. I think that even with the small number of people we have here today, we represent some in person and some not in person. So I was just going to ask the question, how many of you are doing in-person worship that you expect to continue through Advent and Christmas, and who is not? Because I think that, I don't know, that greatly affects, in my mind, what the options are for people.
It's about 50-50 looking at the screen. So yeah. I'll let them share.
Yeah, Patricia, I'll let you speak for Maysville.
No, Patricia, there you go, Patricia.
Okay. We are doing a combination in that we have in-person service, but we're also doing Facebook Live every Sunday. It's the feed for those who are not comfortable to come or who are not physically in proximity, so they still can attend through Facebook. But I like that idea about the all the churches, because fortunately in Maysville there are almost a half a dozen churches on 3rd Street, starting with the Methodists and going on down to St. Pat Catholic. So, just be inviting those that are not currently present to do something like that. But one of our churches does have a big drive-through nativity every year anyway, so.
Okay. Jerry and Troy, they are in person. Recently started doing in-person stuff. Lisa, Corbin, you guys are in person, correct? Am I right, Lisa? Lisa's frozen. I wondered why she was so very still, and she's gone. Caroline, you said you're in person outside and taping it for folks. Are y'all doing a morning worship service outside? Oh, you're still muted. There you go.
We're taping the service and then we're doing it live at 9 o'clock outside, an adapted form of what we've taped. So the taped service is available anytime Sunday. And if you want to be in person to do it, we do it live at 9.
Okay. Andrew, are you guys online or in person?
Yeah, so we just started online or in person, pardon me. Last Sunday, we did an outdoor service at a park, and now we're this coming Sunday we're going to try it in our sanctuary. So
Okay.
I had been trying to come up with some good plans for Advent, but that kind of all shifted, I think, now that we're conceivably going to be in person. So you can tell how thrilled I am about it.
Well, it is. Yeah, what I'll say on and Pisgah's been outdoors, and they're thinking about going. I don't know what you're going to do when it gets cold. I know you're fine being outdoors, but you have also do the combo drive-in piece where you do FM, project FM.
Yeah, we've been back in person since the second week of June. Like you said, we are blessed with great space, and we already had the technology, including the speaker system and things like that, to go outside. But we did get an AM FM transmitter that people can come, and we've had about probably 11 or 12 folks who are using that option. The thing that I've heard the most from people is that for the first time in like 3 years, I can hear the whole service because the mics are so much stronger. It's in my car. I can actually hear what's going on instead of missing half the service. So that's a plus. We will probably stay outside going into the winter. We have our session meeting in about 3 weeks to determine that. But I'm banking on the fact that we'll remain outside.
And then First Lexington, where Emily is at, they're doing online still, I think, as well.
Yeah, we're closed. Our building is closed through January 9th. So we're not making any moves to go in person.
And to be fair, larger congregations have a little more, a lot more complications than maybe smaller ones, and in small towns and rural areas that typically have larger sanctuaries, large sanctuaries and fewer folks. I mean, so we all have the challenge to keep people safe. I think what you have to be prepared for, and so I was going to say this when Andrew was talking. We had a congregation last week. That was their second week back in person, and they did real good with the precautions. But the pastor that came to lead them was exposed to COVID, and the day after that worship service, he got a note he'd been exposed and had to quarantine, which then called them back. Now but luckily they were all distanced and masked. But still, it's you're going to have to hold all this kind of loosely. What you're doing can't be firm and rigid, like this is what we're doing absolutely forever. So you almost have to have a couple of plans. If you're in person and you're thinking we're going to be in person through Christmas, and you have that plan, that may be all well and good, but it's only going to take one infected person to come to worship, or somebody to get sick, or the cases to spike around you, or something really tragic to happen, that you have to then pull back and say, well, we have to go back online or go back to what we were doing. So then you have to have a plan for that. And that's maddening for us as people, as Presbyterians especially, who like order and like things to be the same, and we don't like a lot of curveballs thrown at us. One of the things you might realize is you might have to have a couple of plans here. One for in-person or one for online, and how you do that, or a combination of the both, because even if you're in person, you're still not going to have 100% of your congregation there. And so, you can't, I just don't I firmly believe you can't cater just to the people who are willing to risk and get out and come to in-person stuff. You got to be able to plan and do. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges you have. So we talked about the drive-through piece, either on property, if you have enough property to do it, which I think is a great idea, or a collaboration, ecumenical collaboration among folks. If you want to keep it in the Presbyterian family, if there are enough Presbyterian churches in your area, you could do that. That's one thing. So that's one idea. That's a great idea to do. That would be more for a Christmas Eve service, or that could be a pre-Christmas kind of event as well. So either one. Jim, you don't have to raise your hand. Flip on in.
So here in Maysville, the Christmas Eve service is by far the biggest attendance. We get close to 200 people. The sanctuary is pretty much full, whereas throughout the year we're averaging about 45. So Christmas Eve will be something that we will really need to focus on. But speaking about Advent, I really appreciate what Cynthiana is doing, where they're looking to and taking this as an opportunity to drive worship more into the home. So my understanding is that they are giving out Advent candles and the wreath, the metal base, and then leaving it up to the members to put the greenery around that. But I like that idea, and to again think about how do we push worship more into the home.
Thank you, Jim. That's exactly where I was going next. Talking with Julie Olt, who's the pastor at Cynthiana, she had mentioned that they were going to purchase, I guess, the little candle rings and candles that they can send to each of their families, and then give them instructions on how to build it. And they can go purchase whatever greenery they want. But also, I think they're going to provide. Well, I hope they're going to provide. If they're not, they would probably need to think about this. Some kind of liturgy to go along with it. Some kind of written accompaniment to it, instead of just leaving it to people to figure. You can go online these days. That's the great thing about our world right now, is you can go online and search Advent liturgy and have a ton of stuff, but you don't know what kind of quality that's going to be, and you don't know what kind of theology you're going to find in that kind of stuff. So it'd be better, I think, for us, at least for me, if our churches were able to provide that. So if we provided the materials for people to build their own Advent wreath at home, it gives them an activity to do as a family, and it also then provides them opportunity to worship at home. Because that's one of the things I think in this pandemic that we should have tried to harness, if we haven't already, is pushing worship to the home. It's one of my I guess the thing that I've wrestled with the most is American Christianity and what we've done with worship, where we've made it a Sunday only kind of piece, like Sunday only at 11 o'clock. That's worship. If it's not there, it's not really worship. So what I would love to see is more of a kind of a missional approach, where we're pushing worship and evangelism, all the things we do as a church, more into the neighborhood, more into the community. So if you're training people how to worship as family and at home, that's a natural then jumping off place. Maybe once we're not in a pandemic, where then that family, as they've learned to worship together, can invite other families in their area to worship with them in homes. And so you create a different movement. But that's a different conversation, I think, for later. But that what Cynthiana is doing, I think, is a great potential, at least to keep some sense of familiarity with the Advent wreath and the things that we do normally in worship, if you're not able to be in person, or if you're doing it online. And if you're doing it online, then you can have a moment in the worship service that you're taping where everybody lights the Advent wreath in their home, right? And so it just, once again, draws them into the participatory event and helps them to participate even if they're virtual.
And Philip,
Troy has that too. I'm sorry. We need to.
That's okay. We'll go with Jerry and then we'll go to Sean.
Yeah, folks want to share, I think. So that's a good thing. Troy has a similar thing. We encourage that. We're thinking that along those same lines. One of our leaders is an artist, and so she invited folks. We're going to do like a family kit. That's our plan. And our worship and CE group are working together to make a family kit for every family in the congregation, not just for the young people or, for children. It's not just for children, it's for everybody. And so they want to do an Advent wreath so that what Philip just said, people can, if they're worshiping from home and we're streaming our service, they can still light the candle at home and participate in the worship when they look at it. And one of our leaders is an artist, and so she's invited folks to write a short little devotion, and she's going to put the book together, and then that'll go in with it too, like individual Advent devotions for the season from our Troy folks, from our own people. And so that's going to be kind of cool. They want the young people to participate too, so that if they want to draw something or make a poem or something, then the kids can have in it too. It's not just an adult thing. It's meant to be for everyone. One of the things we're not sure about, like Jim in Maysville, our Christmas Eve is one of the largest services, and it's really a big blowout in the sense that, there's cantata and music and all kind of stuff, and a lot of people from the community come, but we're not going to be able to do that. And our challenge right now, we just started streaming. We just started resuming, and last Sunday we had about a third of the congregation in person, and then the other 2/3 watched from home. And so we're thinking about that, like how might we do that for Christmas Eve? Of course, we could record the worship and then just make it a recorded thing. We really don't want to split it, like we don't want to have some there and some at home. One of our folks suggested something that I thought was really a good idea, just a shorter service outside as a sort of an outdoor candlelight, similar to what Hannah had talked about, but to do with the luminaires and things too. And so, we can make it kind of cool. We have enough parking lot space that would be possible. We figure folks can sing Silent Night without any sort of music and that kind of stuff. So that's sort of what we're thinking. It's really hard to know. I think, Philip, what you said a minute ago is brilliant about we might have to have 2 or 3 plans, because we really don't know. Well, we're hoping that we can continue to be together, but if we can't, we just have to shift again and do something different. So I'll tell that to my people. That'll help us to sort of keep a spirit of flexibility in what we're doing. And just because we're planning it in October doesn't mean it's going to fly in December. So thank you for that.
Sure. Sean, you wanted to jump in there.
Oh, I was just going to say, I know that might be a conversation for another day, but I think that's probably the most important conversation we can have, because any interruption to what is normal is always an invitation to consider what might be next. And I think that there's I think especially not just worship, but formation. Like how can we shift formation from a building to our homes to equip our members to be formed in the ways of Jesus? And I think we're in this season where we have a great opportunity to do that. And it is maybe just like a 4-week season of Advent, where we're just asking, hey, for these 4 weeks, consider doing this. That might begin to, form some muscle memory of what's possible to do, that we don't rely on trained professional clergy and a building to be faithful to the way of Jesus. So I'd say, that might be a conversation for another day, but I think that's the important conversation, even though there's the details of what we're going to do in Advent. But I think that is important to recognize.
Thank you, Sean. I do think, we have to look at this as an opportunity, as opposed to, I know it's easy there is that mixture of grief, of man, gosh, we're not going to be able to do what we've done. But if we can get to the point where we look at the opportunity, like you say, for training, for doing something new, for experiencing life without having to have a building and professional clergy leading us. And again, it moves us into a new future that could be really powerful. And helpful for us. It could be part of the reset I think we need to become the kind of people that God is calling us to be. But so thank you for that, Sean. Other comments so far as we go along. Other thoughts?
I was just going to say, we're using this book as like a foundation for planning.
Faithful Families.
And this one specifically for Advent and Christmas. She has another one, and it's all about like creating sacred spaces and moments at home specifically. So
can you who's the author for that? Can you?
It is Tracy Smith.
And is that what I'm just trying to get the information. So as people want to Google it, they can.
Yeah, so it's Tracy Smith, and it's Faithful Families for Advent and Christmas. And I'm not sure that this one has been released yet, but I think it's on its way out. But
It's out.
It is out. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I bought it for my church. So yes, it is out.
Yeah, we're going to use this as our like foundation for what we send out with families, because we did a church in the bag at the beginning of the fall for kickoff. And we'll probably do something similar like that for Advent. But we're going to use this as giving families things to do in their homes to create their own Advent there, since we won't have like the traditional, hanging of the greens, things like that inside the building of the church. Encouraging that kind of thing to be really intentional at home.
Okay. Yeah, Emily, you had exactly what I was getting ready to say. I bought one for myself and my Christian Ed folks, and it looks amazing, and it's like I think it's coming in today, and it's like an early Christmas present. So thank you, Emily.
Yeah, we're passing it around right now, so hopefully we'll all be ready.
My apologies for having to step out and take a phone call again. Emily, what did you say you had just received?
We're reading a book called Faithful Families for Advent and Christmas by Tracy Smith.
Okay.
And she's written another one about creating sacred spaces in the home. And so this is the Advent version. So it's got a lot of different practical things you can do and send home and encourage your families to do.
Well, one of the things that I was thinking about was for people who are doing worship online, I know that some people are setting up places in their homes. Pastors are actually doing worship from home. Some are doing it from in their sanctuary. They're just there by themselves with whoever's behind the camera or whatever. And there are a lot of things that can go in the sanctuary if that's your space that look traditional, Advent and that type of thing. But I had at least one idea for something visual. I thought, in this time when it's different, when you're in a sanctuary, you can kind of take in the big picture sitting there looking forward at the chancel area of, the wreath, and you've got flowers and all these different things. But when you're trying to do live or tape or whatever, there's a smaller space that your camera is going to pick up. And so was thinking about what have people thought about the visuals that you could use, and maybe what are some visuals that could be different. I don't know if people have thought that far ahead or not.
If not, it's something to think about. Certainly to think about the visuals that you have and how you're using the imagery of Advent and Christmas as a backdrop. The various symbols that we use. Again, the ability to, if you're like a Danville and you're taping it, if you're doing it live, it gives you there's really a lot of opportunity to be creative and meaningful in that. But I also think if you're going to do that, you want to tell people that you're being meaningful and creative, and tell them why you're being meaningful and creative. Mm-hmm. Not that because, we may put symbols back there and we assume people know what they are, but we may want to point to them and use that as another level of explaining why we're doing what we're doing and why we've arranged it so to be the way it is.
Well, and one thing, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm one of those people that just has things kind of just pop in their heads every now and then. When I kind of could hear while I was on the phone that some of you are putting together bags, like Advent bags and stuff, and I don't know what all people are putting in there, but you could include simple little things for them to make. Each family could make a different Chrismon, and then maybe have some way of having them share that. I'm trying to think. I mean, it's interesting how different everybody's doing worship stuff.
Let me interrupt you. I mean, I'm going to make the assumption that not everybody knows what a Chrismon is.
Okay. Does everybody know what a Chrismon ornament is?
Explain that for the people who might be watching online as well, or watching this later. I don't want to make assumptions, but
right. It's usually Chrismons that you can get a book or probably look up online. And get some ideas. It's just a wide variety of symbols that cover the entire life of Jesus. So you have anywhere from doves to crosses to angels and things like that. They're typically white. People make them out of a variety of materials. And I've been in another number of churches where we've had a Chrismon tree in the sanctuary as opposed to just a regular decorated tree. And it was just covered with Chrismons, and some people use some gold accents on the ornaments and things like that. So there are lots of resources for looking up how to, I mean, certainly people can buy Chrismons. I think it's more fun if you include something like that in a kit. Even, I think sometimes we are thinking about the young families as far as kits, but I think I heard somebody say that they wanted everybody in their congregation to have a kit to use for Advent. And I think that's a great way to do that. So I think that, you know, making a Chrismon and finding a way for people to share that, maybe take a picture of it with somebody putting it on their tree in their home or whatever and sending that in. You could have, you know, this collage of pictures or whatever of different families and what they've made with their Chrismons, just as a way to not only have an Advent bag of activities, but so that activity that they're doing can be shared with the community, because that's part of what we're missing, is being able to do things together and share that. And some people, you know, some churches have Advent workshops and things, and they make stuff together in groups, and we can't really do that. But what could we do at home that then we share with each other? So that was just an idea.
The thing is, you absolutely could. A couple of things. One, it'll be a great reminder of COVID Christmas. You know, you can have your COVID Christmas Chrismon. Yeah, that'd be the triple C there.
That's right.
But you could do something like this. You could have a Zoom meeting, and the presbytery can help you if you need a Zoom account. We've got a number of Zoom accounts that are available for churches to use. So you could do this kind of gathering with people having, you know, their Advent craft, if it's Chrismon or something else, in front of them doing it, where they can see each other and they would be together. Again, it's you know, it could be a different way to do things. I would make sure, I want to emphasize, if you're going to do this, and I appreciate people saying we're not just sending it to children, because I know that a lot of people feel isolated. It's not just, you know, there are a lot of people out there who would love to come to church, would love to do something, but they're isolated. They feel lonely. They don't feel a part of the community. They're having a hard time connecting. And so whether you're 5 or 95, to be included in that, I think is going to be important. And so, you know, my grandmother's 99, but, you know, she would still, I think, be happy to try to sit down and try to do a Chrismon or to be a part of something, because it would probably blunt a bit of the isolation that I'm sure they're going to be feeling, especially during Christmas and Advent time, because we got to be aware that you know, we're seeing a lot of difficulty around mental health and those kinds of pieces. That's not going to get better when it gets to be winter and more isolated. So, you know, we're not, make sure you're just not thinking about your kids, but the whole range of intergenerational opportunities to connect people. Lisa, you were raising your hand a second ago, and we've been farther down the road. I don't know if you remember what you were going to say.
I'm trying, oh, I know what that was. When I came to the Corbin Church, I discovered one of the shared beliefs around worship and our worship space was that the only thing that could ever be put on the communion table were communion elements. And it's been an interesting conversation as we've unpacked that, and particularly during this time when we're doing both in-person, combined in-person and record and stream services, because in order for everyone to be able to see and participate, I have to lead worship from behind the communion table, and it's meant we've had to adapt. So we've really been thinking about and working with this whole idea of the community gathering around the table as a theme that's driving our worship, and trying to think through that as we look at Advent as well. That's not a very complete thought, but that's just where we are.
And Sean, you put something in the chat. I don't know if people saw it. Do you want to explain what, is it Christingle?
Christingle, yeah. So, you know, in England, we joke about C of E, meaning not just the Church of England, but also Christmas and Easter, like the 2 times in the year people go to church. And Christmas Eve is a big one. And what a lot of churches do is a Christingle. So they combine sort of a simple Christmas Eve service with this usually children's activity, but a lot of folk come in to do that. And a Christingle is an orange that you place, you wrap a red ribbon around to sort of quarter it. You can stud it with cloves, and then you put a little toothpick in it, and you put candy on the toothpick, and you explain what all this means, and then you drill in and put in a candle. And so they hold the orange during the service as the light, but it also has candy on. And anyway, so that's just a link to one place to describe that. But that's a simple thing people could do at home as another, especially for people with little kids, is another way to teach tangibly some of the symbology in Advent and Christmas. And, it's candy.
It's candy. Yeah, candy is good.
I've seen those before. I didn't know what they were called.
Christingle. That's a new one for me.
Yeah.
I think it's the German word for the light of Christ.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. It occurs to me as we're talking, one of the things about Advent and Christmas is it's a beautiful story. And I know a lot of churches read the Christmas story and they walk through the Advent, the preparation and stuff. This could be an opportunity for your churches, especially with the ability to do stuff online, to record people reading the Christmas story, to have that to post maybe periodically throughout Advent, reading. I mean, you could literally create easily, I think, and maybe if we had enough people, we could do that as a presbytery if we wanted to plan that somehow. Have people reading various aspects of the story and post those throughout Advent as a means of devotion and preparation. But that could be something you do, because I know like every morning, I think it's Danville, you guys are in my Facebook feed with the new, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, right? Yeah, that's why it's not, I never see it come live. It's because I usually don't hit my head doesn't hit the pillow till about 1 in the morning normally. So 8's a little early for me, but but I see that come through the feed. So you're already doing stuff every day. You've got this pattern. But it wouldn't be hard to do some kind of recording if you chopped up the story and had kids read it and older adults read it and different people, different voices read it. And just, it could be as simple as just telling the story and letting people hear that story once again. Something to think about. What other thoughts or plans do you have? Welcome, Karen. Karen's at second. Hey, Karen.
Sorry, yes, late to hear, but glad to be with it. Are you all hooked up to the PCUSA? I just printed off. I saw it the other day. 2020 Advent Resource Guide. I've got 6-8 pages of different. A lot of them are books that we could order, and I wondered what is our church-wide Advent booklet going to be this year? Last year it was really good. The Western churches wrote Advent meditations. I don't see it this way, but we could order those, and of course they cost, but maybe use those as Advent devotions.
Yeah, we'll have to do some research and find. I haven't seen that.
It's PCUSA. I don't know which is I can send it to you.
Yeah.
NT Wright, there are a million of different, of course you gotta pay for them.
Yeah, but that's okay. If we need to facilitate, if the church, and I gotta remember we're recording this, so other people are gonna see it. But if there are ways that we can assist churches in getting the resources they need, but don't feel like they can afford it, we'd look at trying to help them do that if we can. Yeah. Or maybe Second can just buy it for everybody for the whole.
We could. I'm not on session, but I could bring it up. I don't know how far it would go, but I could try. But sometimes since we're on the computers, in a lot of ways, you might only need one copy of something, and if that leader would disseminate, for the day or something, I don't know.
We'll see. We want to make sure that we don't violate any copyrights or. That people
the worst for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll probably go to jail. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't want to go to jail, and we are recording this, so I feel the need to make sure we don't do something inadvertently.
Last year at Second, we had a wonderful time. We had asked members to submit their Advent story, a memory, a symbol, whatever they wanted, a poem about a hymn. And we put it together in a booklet and made it available. It did cost money to the church printed it, but we reimbursed the church for that. We had some artwork we put in. We had some just pictures, but it was lovely. We had something for every day from somebody in the congregation, and most people signed it, you know, what their daily thing was. And it was a wide variety, you know, a beautiful picture of a flowing stream from somebody's vacation. And there was like a nature thing. It was just different. We didn't construct an order to it other than we just put one every day, but it was fun. But it's a lot of work and you got to print it up. So
It is a lot of work. That's why, you know, I still think, you know, you have a couple of months.
Well,
why we're doing this early enough that if you,
yeah,
that's not a bad idea either. You know, if you can find a few people that are willing to write some devotionals, you may not be able to do one for every day, but you could do, you know, 2 or 3 a week,
yeah,
and share those with people. Or again, you know, maybe we can do something together as a presbytery.
that would be fun.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that difficult. We just need to get going on it, right? Other thoughts, other things that you guys are thinking about doing that you think might be helpful?
Philip, I had a thought when going back to your idea about having different people read the Christmas story and do that. Maybe families could do, well, like if one family or a family in your church is lighting their candle for the day, that the family could take, you know, read different parts of the Christmas story, or the one that their family perhaps likes better than the other version of something, or their own devotional for the day if they're lighting the candle for that Sunday. I know in our church, different people, and I'm sure others do, different families like a different candle each Sunday, but if you were trying to feed that through the streaming process, they could probably do that as well.
Sure.
Sounds like a good idea. Thank you. Other thoughts, other things that we could do during Advent to prepare for this? What about?
I just dropped a couple of files in the chat. This is something our family does every Advent. It's a daily moment. We sit together and there's a circle. You know, there's 1 week and it captures one of the themes of the traditional four Sundays: hope, you know, faith, peace, joy. And then there's a brief suggested guideline for who to pray for that day. So I've put in a sample of what the sheet looks like and then the guidelines. So just as a resource, we will be doing as a family, as we always do, but also we might be doing at Danville.
So just so you can see I think this is the second one you shared. For those real quick, I thought I would share it. This is,
yeah, that's the guide, as possible prompts for the circles. So everyone has pens or colors, so all ages can participate, but just as a way to be intentional each day around prayer and around the theme. And in each, if you put up the other page.
We'll see. It said it was a sketchy link, Sean, so it warned me. It said potential security issues. So I don't know. All right, let me see if I can get this one up. I did it anyway. I trusted you, Sean.
There we are.
There we are. Can everybody see that?
Oh, yeah.
So again, just something simple. You can make the circles as big as you want, but it was just a text for that week, and then the circles that you draw in, or if you're not an artist, you know, self-conscious about that, just write someone's name or a situation. But it's a simple daily activity for us to be conscious about the season, about being in prayer, and with some structure to it.
Now, go back. So is this like do you have one per day, or use the same one every day?
So there's 4 weeks. So this is, you know, the first week.
You would use this one all week.
Yes.
So 7 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Okay. I take a little bit of help, Sean. So I help. Yeah, I need to walk through that. So you would take all hope, love, and joy, and
peace.
Peace.
Yeah.
And so you would have 7 circles. You would use one a day in
Yeah.
working that?
So we choose a different text for each week, and then a different prayer, which we pray at the end of the the end of the art time. We pray together that prayer on the bottom right.
And this is something you would do in families?
This is something our family does every Advent.
So what it might be, so again, remembering, I think we want to remember there may, when we talk families, we're talking about families that have, multiple people to maybe a family of one.
Right.
This is where you might think about doing this as a Zoom group, as a Zoom family, or create a smaller subset. So people who are by themselves or may not have a group around them, you could do this in a group setting, couldn't you? I assume.
Yeah, I think also though it's more. I think in terms of a congregation, it's like for even people who, like at Danville, who aren't online at all, like the folk who just don't do that. This is a way they can be connected to this season and the congregation, because everyone could have a copy at home and be doing this, whoever they are, knowing that the rest of the congregation are also doing it or have been invited to do it, at least. And so even if they can't get online or they choose not to, it's still something that can participate, that we're all doing together in this season.
Well, what I was also thinking is that, you could do, maybe a conference call with people. If people, again, they may not want to, but have 4 or 5 people on a conference call doing this at the same time as well. Okay. Anybody? I'll keep this up. That's in the chat. If you want to download that, I will save the chat and I'll try to post some of the stuff online. If you're okay with me sharing that, Sean. If you have the others, and we can put in a file somewhere.
Again, this is just this, at home what we use. If you just take, if you want to use it, adapt it and do whatever you want. But yeah, I can add the others in.
Yeah, I mean, but I trust you. I trust that it's good stuff, and we can put it in there and give you credit, and also say that if you want to adapt it for your families or your church, that you have the freedom to do that.
Yeah, you don't even need to give us credit. You can just use it.
I like to get credit.
I'm sure we've borrowed it from someone else, like everything else.
Thank you. That could be a really nice, easy, simple way to engage folks. So you don't have to do a lot of writing or planning. You can just send that out and with some instructions. That'd be great. Other thoughts about the Advent stuff? I did want to. It seemed like early on in the conversation, Christmas Eve was coming up as a challenge. And how many of you are planning on having in-person Christmas Eve? You could just raise your hand. In-person Christmas Eve service. One. That's actually probably the right answer. Is we're not sure. Maybe inside, maybe outside. Because one of the things I know, everybody wants to be together, and we're limited in our space. So, in terms, please don't use 100% of your space and pack them in for Christmas Eve. That's the Christmas present I don't want to get, which is our churches have COVID clusters coming out of Christmas. Please. But it could be that you could do multiple services. I know larger churches that usually have many services. They may have a kids service. They may have a midnight service. They may have a variety of services. It could be that if you're willing to have multiple services to spread it out during the day with enough space in between, that people could safely come in and safely leave and be socially distanced. You might have to do some registration to try to figure out who's going to be where, so you don't have a ton of people come to one and very few at another. But that could be a possibility. Other things that we can think of to help with the Christmas Eve piece to it. Jerry mentioned doing something outdoors, possibly an outdoor piece to it. Of course, it's going to be sketchy as to whether it's the weather or something. It could be 60 degrees outside, or maybe in Texas it could be 60 or 70 degrees outside. I don't know about Kentucky, but you're rolling the dice if you're going to do it outside. But the hardy folks will be there if you do it. I would caution. I know you're going to want to sing carols when you're together. I just have to feel like I have to caution against the singing. You have to be careful if you're going to sing carols together, because that has been shown to be more risky behavior. But I don't know how you gather together without singing Christmas carols. in some form or fashion. That's going to be a really hard one to monitor. Other thoughts about Christmas Eve or Advent? We're almost, we're at about noon. I wanted to keep this to around an hour.
Well, I just checked where I got my pages on Advent resources, which are books, NT Wright. A lot of people have Advent books. It's PCUSA Store, STORE, and it's support@PCUSAstore.com.
Okay.
So support@PCUSAstore.com. And I don't know why I get it. I get a lot of cool things from PCUSA. I figure it's Presbyterian women, but I don't know. But this is for everybody. And it's just pages, just printed. If anybody just pages, printed with research.
Sean put that in the chat. That's what he put in the chat. So,
Oh, he put the link in the chat. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, this? Oh, okay, good. Okay.
yeah, just so in case, yeah.
Good.
And just for all of you on the call, if you click on the chat button and you go over to the 3 little dots down at the bottom, there's a box with 3 little dots in it. Does everybody see that? If you click on that, it'll say at the very top, save chat. So before we close, if you want to save the chat for those of you who are on this call, if you want to save that chat to your own computer and not wait for somebody to post it later, you can do that at any point. Now, once you save it, if people continue to chat, you won't have that piece to it. So you might wait until we're ready to sign off and then save the chat and all the resources that have been posted or links that have been posted will be there. And I'll have that and we'll post that later when we post the recording as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you.
I'll take all the technical help you got.
I think we're all learning together, trying to figure out how to do this. So any other comments? Has this been helpful time? It's been helpful for me. I've given me some ideas. Any other questions or concerns before we wrap it up?
Could we talk about this at the Presbytery meeting on the 8th? Just briefly, a list of stuff?
We could do that. Let me write that down. I will forget. Jerry, I think, is still on here.
Yep.
Even though we can't see him, he may be off in the Ethernet. Oh, there he unmuted himself.
There he is.
Yeah, I'm back. I was having a snack. I didn't want you all to witness that.
And we thank you. We thank you.
That's just a list of resources or something. I don't know.
Well, maybe.
I just want to put out there that there are several resources that are providing at-home adaptations, especially for the children's stuff. And so if you have children and you're working on ways to do some things with them, Christian formation, Sunday school, different, whatever people are calling it, and you're not sure where to look for those kinds of things, go ahead and send me an email or something like that. A lot of people have seen some information about the new Growing in God's Love, a story Bible, and there's a curriculum that's going with it. They're getting ready to send out 5, 6 new units, and one of those will be for Advent Christmas Epiphany time. And one of the things that they're doing is not only providing the at-home ideas and how to put together kits for people, but they're also creating intergenerational pages so that if you're trying to do something that includes variety of ages in your church, there is a page that helps you do that so that it's kind of inclusive for everybody. And they're just trying to provide resources that they think might be helpful for people in the variety of ways that we're trying to gather, Zooming and Facebooking and live and recorded and just, the variety of things. So there's a lot to choose from. So anyway, if you have any questions about some of that stuff, send me an email.
Jenny, would you tell us your email? Do you mind doing that?
No, that's fine. It's GHBaker60@gmail.com. I'll type it into the messages.
Thank you. That way people watching can get a hold of you as well if you'd like. And Jerry, would it be possible for us to take a few minutes as a part of the called Presbytery meeting
I think just the general, good of the order kind of stuff, that'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, something we can do.
Another group that no one's mentioned yet, and Troy's using them, it's Illustrated Children's Ministry. They're a good outfit, and they have a 12-week series on the Beatitudes. That's what we're using right now for our young people's Christian education, Sunday school, basically. It's meant to be used in Zoom, and so the distancing stuff that Jenny was mentioning right now, I think they're developing. It's not. I don't think they've released it quite just yet, but they're having a Zoom Christmas pageant. So it's like, how do you do that online? So check them out. Illustrated Children's Ministry. They have good stuff. Yep.
They're very good. And I think that Hannah earlier mentioned Sanctified Art.
Yep.
You can Google that. And they also have a variety of resources available. And
but they're making sure that the things that they offer are able to be used in this online world that we're in. So.
right. And I think that Hannah said Sanctified Art's doing the same thing. So there are a couple of places out there in addition to Presbyterian resources that are providing things to be used in these times, as we keep saying.
Good, great. Thank you all. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time to be here, to share and to listen. Again, there's been some great resources thrown in the chat. We'll save that and get those out. We'll, at our called meeting on the 8th, for those of you that are watching the called meeting at 8 o'clock, we're going to be interviewing a candidate for ministry.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, sorry. I had
know.
my mind.
It's okay.
7 p.m. We're going to be examining a candidate for ministry ordination. So hopefully you can all be there for that.
You're not going to tell us who it is till we get there.
Oh yeah, we can tell you. It's Scott Robinson. He's been serving down in Pikeville.
Okay.
Graduated from Vandy Divinity School last year and has been serving for about a year, kind of in a residency capacity, intern capacity down in Pikeville. And so he's all ready and they're ready and we're ready to bless it and get him down the road. We're very excited about what he's doing down there.
He's a nice young man.
Yeah, good guy.
We're working hard to get all of his materials to you out to folks as soon as possible. So they're on their way.
Within the window or supposed to. So any other questions or comments before we go?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. And we'll get this online soon so that others can see it. Yeah, I tried to turn my chat off on my computer, but it didn't work. It keeps coming back up. So thank you all. And I appreciate everything you're doing. Hang in there. We know it's going to be an interesting end to the year and a beginning to the church year. Remember, it's a beginning of our church year, not the end of the year for us. So
yes.
May
this be better than the last.
Yeah, may this. We will continue to pray for you and your ministry and for all the things that we're dealing with in our country and around the world. And pray this Advent brings good news of good tidings and joy for us. So prayers for you all, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
All right, take care.